Hello, ladies. Welcome back to Celebrate You. Today we have a very interesting guest. So we have Sue Reid. She's from Devon in the UK, and she's the founder of Life by Design. However, what is extremely interesting about this conversation is that just like myself and many of you that I know that are listening, Sue used to work in the banking industry. And I say used to because Sue used to work, well, she worked for 42 years in retail banking. So, and like names like HSBC, Nationwide Building Society. So, what I find like super interesting, it's like today we say, oh, women empowerment and banking and the other, but I cannot even imagine how it was like 42 years ago. So Sue is such an inspiration because she was one of the trailblazers for all of us. So Sue, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Hi, Moni. Thank you. And thanks for inviting me. I'm really pleased to be here.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. So let's start with, tell us about your story.
Okay, so like you said, I was in banking for 42 years. It's really the only job I had. Um, it wasn't my first choice. I had quite a strict father, so very strict upbringing. My father made all the decisions. So my father decided that was the job I should do. It was either work in a bank. He thought that was a good job for a woman, or be a secretary, which he also thought was a good job for a woman. I
Yeah.
went to secretarial school for about 2 weeks to learn how to type and how to do shorthand, and I was absolutely rubbish at the shorthand. So after 2 weeks, I said to my dad, "I can't do this," and he said, "Okay, so it's banking then." So he applied for 5 different roles for me, 5 different banks, and I had interviews at 3, and I got 2, but I chose to work for what was Midland Bank then, which was taken over by HSBC. So I started off at Midland Bank, and I worked there, worked in banking for 42 years, doing all sorts of different roles, but finished up as a financial advisor. I think the one thing I loved about the job was meeting people, talking to people, advising people.
Yeah.
That's what I really loved. So when I retired in 2019, I didn't want to just sit around. I wanted to do something that would help people. And so I thought, what was it that I love? I love meeting people. So I thought, well, okay, I'll do coaching and stuff like that. So that's what I moved into. So as you say, I live in Devon and I'm married. I've got a son. I've got a stepdaughter and a grandson. And yeah, I'm really happy here. I'm really happy with what I'm doing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Like, I find it so, it's not weird. What's the word? Like, at the word in English is not coming to my mouth right now, but it's like, it's strange, unknown, that concept of my father, like
I
choosing
know,
for me
I
which
know.
job. Like, which job
I
should I do,
know.
Dad?
It's hard to believe now. But yeah, when I
Yes.
look back now, I mean, I've had to kind of do some work on myself because of that, because of all the like the conditioning that was in me, all the codes that were in there, with my father saying, this is the job for you. This is what you won't be working for very long anyway, because, and this is actually what they said when I started work, because one of the first things I asked was, can I take some banking exams? And they said, no, you're a woman. Why would you want to take banking exams? You're not going to be here long enough. You're
Oh,
going to get
wow.
married and have children, so it'd be a waste of our money. So I thought, oh, okay then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there was, I mean, yeah, there was my father never said to me, and my parents never said to me, you can be anything you want to be. It was, these are your only options. Get on with it, sort of thing. But it was the way it was at that time.
Wow. Wow, like now, like if I think about it, like now I look at like women, let's say your age, my mom's age, and we're like, oh, those were the real women who started the movement, not the movement, but like who started like changing the world for us today. Because I cannot even imagine how
Definitely.
difficult it was to say, yeah, you don't have a choice. This is what you're doing. Well, I grew up, my mom told me like all the time, you can do anything that you want. And I never
Yeah.
appreciated that maybe it came from she couldn't. She just
Yeah.
had to
No, nobody
do the
ever told me that.
secretarial
No one
work.
ever
Yeah.
told me I could do anything I wanted. No, no.
Oh,
And I
wow.
remember, I'd probably been working in the bank for about 6 months, and one of the girls, she was a bit more senior to me, but she came in wearing a trouser suit, and oh my god, you'd think she'd come in wearing a bikini or something because that's not appropriate wear. You need to be wearing a skirt. Why are you wearing trousers? You're not a man. Never wear them again.
Oh my.
And she said, "Well, I can wear what I like." And they said, "No, you can't. Not if you want to stay here."
Oh,
It is,
that is
and
so
as things did
interesting.
start to change, and things started to change, like you didn't have to call the manager sir anymore or Mr. So and so. You could call them by their first name. And we had a meeting. They said, "Call your manager by his first name." And we were all like, "What?" And I remember the first woman in our office that got a senior post. So she got a post of account manager, and all or most 90% of the men in the office were saying, "Well, she must be a lesbian." She was married, but they were going, "She must be a lesbian. Why would she want a man's job? She must be." It was completely different times. Unbelievable looking back now.
Yeah, it is so unbelievable. Well, I hope that when I hope that the girls that are like babies today, when they grow up, they look at you and me and say, oh, that is like unbelievable. Like, I cannot even
Yeah.
think of a world where there is a pay gap. Why could that exist? That it's like nonsense. Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so, because we've proven we are just as good at doing that sort of job as men are. So, and sometimes better.
Yes. Oh, that is such a beautiful start. So you've been in banking like for all these years, and then you retired and you said, I want to start life by design. What inspired you to do this work?
Well, I wanted to do something in the line of coaching. So before I left work, I did a qualification in hypnotherapy and neuro linguistic programming. So I was using that and helping a few people, quietly, as well as working full time. So I wasn't doing a lot, but just to keep my qualification, my experience, if you like, and that went well. So when I left, I thought, well, I'll start a little business up as Sue Reid hypnotherapy, which I did. And then because I love learning, I'm a lifelong learner. So I did lots of different courses, and I thought, well, I'll expand it a little bit more. And so I went into like more coaching, but using hypnotherapy and NLP with it. And I got to thinking about life by design, because I think, well, you can choose how you want your life to go. And you can choose, like, there's so many decisions you can make. You can choose how you want your health and fitness to be. Do you want to be really fit and healthy? Do you not? You can choose, what sort of books do I read? What do I put in my mind? So what do I put in my body? What do I put in my mind? You can have a vision of the future. Everyone's got things they want to achieve and things they want to do, but a lot of people don't actually do them because they don't know where to start, or they think, oh, that's never going to happen to me, and blah, blah, blah. They've got all these limiting beliefs. So I thought, well, I know with myself, because of my upbringing and because kind of, I think it was kind of a chain reaction in my life, the upbringing I had, and, no disrespect to my parents, because they did bring me up in that way in the times. But because of that, I kind of went into some bad relationships, and I was shy, and I didn't really have boundaries set. And so people took advantage of me. And I thought, I had dreams. I had places I wanted to go. I had things that I wanted to do, but I never believed I could do it because I had no confidence. I had no courage. And going through a really bad marriage just left me with zero confidence anyway. I was like completely at ground zero.
Mm.
So I built myself back up, and I did a lot of work with myself using my hypnotherapy and my NLP. And I thought, well, if I can help myself, I can help other people. And so that was the thoughts behind it. And then that kind of led me on to also thinking about confidence and self-esteem and shyness. And although I think shyness is something we're born with, it shouldn't hold us back. We shouldn't, the nervousness, the timidness, the fear, those are natural instincts. Those are the things that keep us safe in the world. There are primal instincts to kind of warnings when you're in
Mm.
danger. Your unconscious mind sends out signals. But that can sometimes stop you even, going for a job interview because you're frightened of what they might say to you, or, even walk into a room full of strangers, meeting new people. It can hold you back so much. And people say, well, it's because I'm shy. It's because I've got no confidence. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can build it back up. So I'm kind of moving into the niche of confidence building and overcoming shyness. And in that respect, I'm writing a book at the moment. I've written now just over 6,000 words. So it's coming along. And then
Nice.
along with that, I'll do some workshops and I'll set up an online course. So that's kind of my trajectory now, to head down that path and move into the niche of building confidence. Because I thought, well, I know that I'm still a shy person. I'm still introverted. I still prefer my own company to being in a large crowd. I'm still get nervous at walking onto a stage, for example, and talking in front of people. But
Yeah.
I know how to get over it. I know I can do it. And that's what I want to bring out to the world to help other people.
Awesome. And that's the most beautiful thing, because it's not like you say, "Oh, I'm shy," and that's stopping me, but it's more like I'm shy and I'm going to do it anyways. But it's like,
That's
of
it.
course, I'm conscious of my emotions, because like feeling shy, it's just an emotion. So it's more of I'm conscious of how I feel and what I'm thinking when I am doing these activities that require me to be the center of attention and be on stage, for example. But it's like, oh, now I know how to manage that little voice and to manage my emotions. Therefore, I can do it. That is super cool.
That's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is just controlling that inner voice that's telling you you can't do it. And just thinking, yes, I can. And the thing is, once you've done something scary once, then you know you can do it. You've done it. So you know you can do it. So you can tell your unconscious mind, I can do this. I've done it before. I can do it again. You just keep repeating that. And together with slow breathing, calming yourself down, and also making sure that you feel good, you look good. If you can do all that, then you can basically achieve anything. You can
Mm.
just do it. And I tend to, if I'm worried about something, if I'm going to do something that scares me, I just talk myself through it. Like I'm talking somebody else through it. I'm going, you can do this, just keep going. And I do stuff like tell myself, well, in 12 hours time, this will all be over and you'll be back at home. And then I think,
Oh,
I can do this, because in 12 hours time, I'll be sat at home thinking to myself, I did it. I did it, and
oh,
it was fine. So you just
yeah.
keep
That's
telling
such
yourself that over and over again.
Yeah, that's such a great mindset, because it's like what I've done before. It's more of oh, in 5 years' time, it will not matter. But 5 years' time is like a long time in the future. Like it doesn't help you deal with the present. But if I tell myself, oh, in 12 hours' time, I will be home, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
that's
I've
it,
just gotta
I'm
do
done and
this.
over
I've just
it,
got
you're
to
like,
step
oh,
forward.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. It's just a mindset shift. And also things like thinking of who you admire who does give good talks. There's so many motivational speakers. So say you admire Oprah Winfrey, and you watch her on TV and you see how she performs and how she acts, and you just think Oprah Winfrey in your mind. What would Oprah Winfrey say? What would Oprah Winfrey do? And by keeping that in your mind, you're kind of identity shifting to, for that split second, you are Oprah Winfrey and you're acting the way she would act. It's a
Oh,
different way of thinking, but it takes you out of your that fear.
yeah, yeah. That's yeah, because it takes you out of your head and basically your mind acts as the counselor, let's say, as if you were somebody else. You're like, ah, yeah, what
Yeah.
I would tell to my friend, or what would so and so tell me. Yeah, that's a very practical
Yeah,
way
that's it.
of
Yeah.
changing your mindset. I have a now that at the beginning of the talk you used two different words. One is confidence and self-esteem, and that how your divorce kind of like put your confidence at the rock bottom. There's I think I've had this question for a very long time. What's the difference between confidence and self-esteem in your view?
In my view, I think self-esteem is how you view yourself, what you're thinking about yourself. Um, and confidence is having the courage to do something. So one is your view of yourself, and the other is how you act because of that view. That's the way
Oh,
I see it.
I love it because then self-esteem it's similar to self-image, how I'm seeing
Yeah,
myself, and
yeah,
confidence equals to courage. E.g., do
yes,
I have the je ne sais quoi, kind of like the pump to go and do it? That it's like I've got the confidence to do it. Awesome. That's a
yes,
really good distinction because then it's like I find that as well that when you talk to people, it's self-esteem, confidence. They are used interchangeably, but I know they are different. But I hadn't really understood the difference. So for you guys that are listening in, then these are really two beautiful concepts. One is self-esteem or self-image is how we view ourselves. Confidence is having the courage to do what we want to do. And if we link it
yeah,
back to Sue's original point about designing your own life, we put together our self-image with the courage or confidence with the vision of our own life. That's the winning formula.
yeah. That's it. Yeah, yeah. So you can work out what you want to do in your life, where you want to go, what is holding you back. Um, get rid of those limiting beliefs that hold you back because they're all in your head. And then you can work out, okay, I've got my goals, I've got my self-belief, and then you just set up little mini habits that move you towards your goal.
Hmm. And
So
that's the key. Little mini
it's
habits.
not as easy as it sounds. It takes work. It takes really work every day on yourself, but the more you do, the more you work on yourself, the better and easier it becomes.
Yes.
And I think
Amazing.
I'm living proof of that. So, I went, like I say, from being broken to having a really successful career and to be able to retire early and now to have my own business and to be writing a book,
Yeah.
and to be, just here talking to you. And I do my own podcast platform as well, or not my platform, but I've got my own podcast as well.
Yes, you
So
don't come across as shy. Like shy, I'm like shy. No, she's not shy. Like she's confident, and that's a very good point. Like shy and confident, they can they they can live together. I can have an introvert personality and still be confident.
yes, definitely. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of motivational speakers. I've just started a course by Keith Ferrazzi, and he was saying, he talks he deals with CEOs, large corporations. He talks on stage, but he still calls himself shy and introverted. There's a lot of motivational speakers that do class themselves as introverts, because at the end of the day, they would prefer to be on their own than to be talking to a whole load of people. But they do, because that's their job, and they've pushed themselves in to be able to do that.
So, like, so that I can relate better, I am an extrovert. So the word shy and me many times don't go together. But if I put myself in the shoes of an introvert, and let's say someone like as an introvert, if at work I need to make presentations, or in the example that you said, like if I'm a motivational speaker, that it's like we're taking that to the extreme, that I need to give presentations to hundreds or thousands of people, how do I gain that courage to be okay without feeling the nerves and the anxiety of speaking with in front of people?
Okay, so you will feel nerves and anxiety and fear, because that is your instinct. That little part of your brain that says it's on the lookout constantly for danger, and it says, right, you are going into something that you're not very confident about, so that means it must be dangerous. And as far as your mind is concerned, that means there's a lion coming, or there's something, a predator around the corner, because that's your primitive mind thinking that. So you are bound to feel fear. But if you, before you step out, if you first of all get into your body, because when something frightens you and you say, I jumped out of my skin, what you're actually doing is you're leaving your body, your spirit is leaving your body. You're not in the present anymore. You're either in the past or in the future. So you might be thinking about, oh my God, what just happened, or what's about to happen. So you've just jumped out of your body, if you like, spiritually. So you need to get your awareness back in your body, and you need to be calm and present. So you ground yourself first, and then before you walk out, you take a few breaths and you tell yourself, I can do this, and then you just go for it. You just like jumping out of a plane. You just take that step. You can't sit on the edge thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this. You just got to step out there and do it.
Mm,
And
that's a
that's how you would
beautiful.
do it as an introvert, or a shy person.
Yeah. So it's more of I feel my body. I come back to my body, take a
Yeah.
deep breath, and then that puts me in a calm, centered, grounded energy, and then I go and do it.
Yeah, because if you think about your mind, that primitive part of your mind that's sensing danger, it's telling you there's a predator, a lion or something coming towards you. This is what it believes is happening. Now, if that happened, if you were walking through a jungle and there was a lion in front of you, you would start to go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. So your breath would be very shallow. Um, that's how you breathe if you're frightened of something. So if you're worried about going on stage, you will be breathing very shallowly. So that tells your brain, yeah, it's definitely danger. So you don't want to go out there. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But if you start to breathe calmly, if you saw a real lion in front of you in the jungle, you are not going to stand there going, ah, you're not going to breathe calmly and deeply. You are going to be out of there. So by breathing calmly and deeply, you're sending a message to your mind saying, there's no danger. It's absolutely fine. I've got this. And then it will start to calm down. It's all how you're sending signals back to your brain, because your brain all the time is picking up, and your mind is picking up signals from your body as to what's going on. So it's what are you noticing, how are you feeling, what's going on in your body, and that's all fed back. And that's either, yeah, everything's fine, or no, there's danger about, we need to take action. And that's all the time what it's thinking.
Hmm. Oh, that's a great uh, perspective. I've never stopped to think about confidence and taking action and dealing with fear from an introvert's point of view. I always think about it from the extrovert, of course. It's beautiful having that
But even
conversation.
extroverts feel fear. I mean,
Of course.
it's got to be a normal instinct. If you speak to any, those free climbers, the ones that climb up mountains with no equipment, no ropes, they just climb up. They say they have to feel fear because if they didn't feel fear, they'd take risks that would get them killed. Because
Mm,
they feel the fear and do it anyway, they are very, very careful about what they do because they know at any moment they can fall. And that would stop me from doing it. But that is the thrill for them. That's why they do it. But that doesn't mean they're not scared of it.
yeah, that's a very good point. Um, I have a curiosity question. Like, how old were you when you started to discover all this work on mindset and confidence and NLP?
I think I had to go through my darkest time. Um, and it was kind of an ongoing process. So, started off when I was very young. I had basically a series of bad relationships, one just leading into another. Um, and so when I came out of my marriage, I was about 40. Um,
Mm,
and I I've married again soon after. So I met somebody else and I'm still with him and he's absolutely wonderful. So I was probably a bit younger than 40 actually, because I'm 62 this year. But
yeah.
I had to fix myself. I had to work on myself. I couldn't go to counselling. I just couldn't talk to anybody else. I don't know why that was, but I tried it and I just couldn't do it. So I thought,
Mm,
right, I'm gonna have to fix myself. And I just thought I'll buy a self-help book. And I don't know what made me think that. I'll buy a self-help book. The first book I bought was Robin Sharma's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
mm,
And that
yeah.
put me on the road, basically. Once I read that, I read quite a few of his books. And then I started reading other books. And then um, I think I did the hypnotherapy training then, which helped me a lot because if ever they needed a volunteer, I was, yep, that's me. Yep, I'm going to volunteer. And so I had all this free work done on me. And of course, we were practicing in pairs as well. So I got a lot of my issues shifted that way. Um, and the NLP as well. I did that at the same time. And just kept doing different courses and just working on myself all the time. So
Mm,
probably to get from that point to where I am now, it's probably, well, it has taken about 20 years. And it's only in the last probably 5 years that I felt really, really confident, super confident.
yeah. Yeah, and that's impressive because like you started in your 40s probably or late 30s, early 40s. How would your life could have been different if you learned this information, let's say in your mid 20s?
Oh my God. Wow. It would be totally different. But I think we go through things to teach us something. And so I wouldn't be the person I am now. In fact, I think when I was young, I don't think I was a very nice person anyway. Um, well, I think now I'm a much nicer person. I'm more patient. I think deeper. I've got an awful lot of experience and knowledge to pass on. So
Mm,
I think going through those dark times and, get really honestly, if I'm totally honest, I did get to the point where I was driving in my car one day and I thought, if I just drive my car into a brick wall, maybe it'll all be over. That's how close I came. I also remember a point when I was, well, I say arguing with my ex-husband, but it was more me standing in the corner and him shouting at me. Um, and I was at a corner where two worktops met. And so he got me pinned in this
mm,
corner and he was pointing his finger and shouting at me and, telling me how worthless I was. And I could see a knife on the table on the like kitchen counter. And I thought, if I just reach over and get that knife, this will all be over. And again, for a split second, I thought about killing him. That's how bad things got. Um,
oh wow.
so I really, really did hit rock bottom, and I have
Yeah,
pulled myself back up, and I think I've done wonders, and now I want to pass that
of
on to
course.
other people, basically.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Um, do you remember what was going on in your mind at those points that you didn't do it? You didn't grab the knife, you didn't crash the car. Like what
I think
what
I
stopped
I
you?
think it's the universe. I mean, I'm totally believe that, there is, whether you call it God, the creator, the universe, there is a power that's higher than us that if we open our hearts, open our spirits, it will guide us. And
Mm,
I don't think I realized it at the time, but I think my purpose wasn't done, so it wasn't time for me to leave. So yeah, in both instances, I thought just carry on, just pick yourself up and carry on. That's all you can do.
wow, that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So somewhere in me, there was that courage.
Yes. Oh, now that I say that, like what's coming to mind is sometimes I feel like, especially these days with like women's empowerment and self-help industry like growing billions and all that stuff, sometimes it feels that the word confidence is overused. But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, like now that I'm hearing your story, like when I look back at my story, it's like the word courage many times has been like so important that even like chapters of my life I call them like the courage project. That's it. It was
Yes.
just like a stage, and it was not about confidence, it was not about self love, it was just like you say, it was just like pull yourself from wherever you can. And it's just like have the courage to continue even through the
Yeah.
challenges,
Yeah.
whether that's a
Yeah.
relationship or a health challenge or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah, always view any problem, any challenge, always view it as a project, something to work on. You've got something in front of you, so sort it out. Don't sit there thinking, "Oh, woe is me." Get up and sort it out. That's the way I look at things now. um,
Mm,
because of that, because I know that you can fix things, you can fix your life, you can move forwards if you've got, again, if you've got the courage. You've got to have the desire and you've got to have the courage to step forward and do something. And there is plenty of help out there. There's plenty of people. I mean, there's women's groups. I used to, before lockdown, I was running women's circles. So we'd just sit down once a month
mm,
in a sacred space and just, share our stories and help each other, listen to each other. And sometimes that's all you need, just somebody with their hands at your back.
yeah. Somebody to listen.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, now that we're talking about like the dark times and like courage, um, like the pandemic has created situations for people where it's very difficult. It's very difficult. For some of them, it's financially difficult. For others, in difficult relationships, it's like very difficult, and domestic violence has increased a lot. For others, mental health, like living on your own, like it's been difficult, especially I don't know
Yeah.
in the UK that it's like in the middle of, I cannot imagine, like I moved I moved from the UK to Malaysia 4 years ago. But like many times I was like so grateful that I was going through lockdown in Malaysia because it was sunny. I was like I cannot even imagine going through lockdown in winter in the UK. Like just winter on its own it's difficult. So
I think
what type of advice could you give people that are now going through a difficult time, like based on your experience, what is like the one or two small steps that they can take now that they are in that place?
I think, I mean, obviously, it depends on your circumstances. Some people I know in the UK, there are people that live in flats and have children and no gardens and can't go out. And that must be horrendous. That's not the case for me, but I can't imagine. That must be, a nightmare, really. But it will end. It's not going to be forever. And as difficult as it may be, it's only a small part of your life. Things will change. Things will get better. We're not going to be, hopefully, we're not going to be in lockdown forever. It seems like that, but we're not. It will end. But in the meantime, we've got telephones. We can talk. We can ring somebody and have a chat. We've got, we've got the internet. We've got the Skype and Zoom, and we can talk to each other online. You can go out your house. In the UK, you're allowed to go out your house. You're allowed to go for a walk. You've just got to keep socially distant. So you can get fresh air, but I think the thing to do is to have belief that it will end. Have something that you can focus on, some interest. So many people have started hobbies.
Yes.
I started baking. I started baking my own bread.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and my son as well started baking his own bread because he was on furlough for over a year because he was in hospitality. He started
Wow.
baking and making all sorts of stuff. And I know there's a girl in our town that started up her own cake business because she was on furlough. She started making cakes and selling them, little cupcakes. And she's now left her job and she's got a little business that keeps her, she's got a good income coming from it. So focus on something that you're interested in, take up knitting, or I know somebody that's taken up crochet, and that he's a man, he's taken up crochet and he's crocheting blankets and shawls and
Oh.
all sorts of things. um yeah, and financial difficulties, obviously that is hard, but it's just a matter of monitoring what you're spending your money on. And in our town we've got a community fridge, so you've got food banks in the UK, and a lot of people were using them even before the pandemic, so it's going to be even more now. But we've got a community fridge where if shops have got any, say, milk left over at the end of the evening, they'll put them in the community fridge so people can go and help themselves, and stuff like that. And, lots of shops have been putting things in there for people to take out. And it's community, so anybody can use it. So it's not necessarily for people that
Yeah,
are financially in difficulties, but it helps. It helps everybody.
it
So
helps.
ideas
It
like
helps
that you can set
knowing
up in
that
your
there's.
town work together, basically. I think the thing is to keep
Oh,
positive.
that is beautiful.
Whatever situation you're in, there's always going to be something positive that you can focus on.
Hmm. And yes, that's a very good point. Like focusing on staying positive. Sometimes it's difficult when you are in a negative vibe, just
Oh,
because you are in the
totally. It's
negative
always
vibe.
going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like if you're if you if you cut an artery and you're bleeding to death, yes, it's it might be hard to have an operation to have it sewn up, but if you don't do it, you're going to bleed to death. So you've got to do something positive to help yourself. It's probably not a very good analogy, but it's the only one that came to mind.
No, that's a good analogy. Um, what what's coming to mind is like when you were in the dark times, and then now I'm like thinking of everyone that's struggling now because of the pandemic. Like I believe that sometimes what stops us from asking for help when we are struggling is that there's like this stigma around not being in my positive. Like there's
Yeah,
stigma about feeling either depressed, angry, like whatever is the emotion that it's opposite to positive, especially when you take it like to the extreme, let's say. How
yeah.
do you recommend people to overcome that stigma and that fear to be judged and to reach out, to feel comfortable reaching out and
Yeah,
asking for help?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's okay not to be okay, basically. It is okay to not be okay. because if you, everything has an opposite. So if you're going through good times, sooner or later you're going to go through a bad time. You are. So if you're going through bad times, good times will follow. You have to go through
Mm,
the dark to get to the light, and vice versa. If you're
yes,
going through the light, sooner or later you're going to go through the dark again. That's just life. It is up and down.
it's a
So
cycle.
don't be afraid to ask for help. Just reach out. There are plenty of people that will help you. And there's also plenty of people that are either going through the same as you're going through or have been through what you're going through. So just ask for help. And I mean, the thing with social media is there's so many groups where whatever your issue is, there'll be somebody else in the world that's had that issue, that's got that issue. And they form groups on social media. So just search out those groups. Just find somebody that you can talk to. I know with me, one of my problems when I was in my dark times, if you like, was I thought, well, I made these decisions. I chose the way my life has gone. It's all my fault. So therefore, why would anybody
Mm,
want to help me? Because I did this to myself. And that's absolute rubbish
mm.
because even if it was self-inflicted, it happened and it doesn't mean that nobody is ever going to help me because I made stupid mistakes because everybody makes mistakes. So,
Yes.
whatever you're going
And
through, you are
probably the
not the first person in the world to be going through that problem. So reach out.
oh
Find that
yes,
person
that's
that
what my
says,
mom
I've
used to like.
I've been there. Yeah. Just find that person that says, yep, that was me.
Yeah.
I've been there. I can relate to that. And talk to them because they know what's going on.
Yes, like now that you say that, I remembered like that's what my mom used to say when I was growing up. Whatever is going on in your life, just remember that you're not going to be the first one going through this, nor the last one. Whatever it is,
Absolutely.
if it's a breakup, a divorce, a job, a loss, like shame, whatever it is, you're not going to be neither the first one nor the last one. So
No,
reach out for
no.
help. It's
That's right.
not.
I wasn't the first girl in the world that made some really stupid mistakes that, rebelled against her strict father and left home and, did all sorts of crazy things. Um, I'm not the first person to have done that. So I'm not ashamed of everything that happened. I
Yeah.
was then, but I'm not now. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
no, so my advice would be always find somebody you can talk to. There are people you can talk to.
yes.
Nobody will judge you if they're a good person. If they're not a good person and they do judge you, then you don't want to talk to them anyway. Just step away.
That's a good point. And probably we judge ourselves a little bit harsher than what
Yes.
people may judge us. Because probably
Oh,
no one is judging
definitely.
us, it's just in our head.
Absolutely. The reality is never as bad as we think it is. Never.
No. Oh, I love how this conversation ended up like in mental health because it's such an important topic and it's important to break the stigma about talking about the dark times because we all have them.
Definitely. Yeah.
And if we haven't because we're too young and we haven't experienced them, it's a, oh, just wait. Like they will come.
It will definitely come. Yes. So the more
Yeah.
prepared you are now, the better.
Yes,
But I
exactly.
think that's an important point because I think so many young girls, but and young men, they're not taught to set their their boundaries, what they will accept and what they won't accept. Um,
Mm,
and I think that is so important to know, where you're drawing the line, what you're willing to accept from somebody else, what's acceptable behavior and what isn't. And I think that's something I personally believe should be taught in schools and parents should teach their children as well.
yes, that's a very good point. Yeah, we're never taught about what to exactly how to put boundaries, like what
That's
to
right.
accept
Yeah.
and what
So
not to accept from others. And others may
yeah.
be a partner or a boss or a parent. Like it can be a friend, it can be anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'll put up with and what I won't. And, I think young people should be taught values, how to set their own values, what's important to them, and live
Mhm.
by them. If you don't know what they are in the first place, how can you live by your values if you don't even know what they are? So, again, I think that would be, if I was in charge of education, that's what I would teach people.
That's I'm like that's a very good good observation for anyone in the world who works in education. Just take notes.
Yes.
As we are approaching towards the end of the episode, I wanted, like, of course, you have like so much life experience and wisdom.
You're
Um,
saying I'm
if
old, aren't you?
No, 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 no. It's just like I'm framing the question for
Yes.
the ladies who are listening, because I was going to say, if you were to not look back, but like take all that wisdom that you have now, and based on like you went through the workplace when it was really difficult for women to be in the workplace. You went like through another world that I cannot even relate. But the girls that are growing up now, like if they're in their 20, 25 years old, like their world and mine is different already. So, with all
Definitely.
your wisdom, like what could you tell a lady who's in her 20s, like early 20s, mid 20s? What could be your piece of advice for their lives?
I would say if you're just starting out in life now and you're in your 20s, and I have a niece who is 23, so this really is the advice I've been given her. Just decide where you want to be, say, in 5 years' time. So when you're 20, 5 years seems a long time, but believe me, it's not. So, where would you like to be in 5 years' time? What are all the goals that you want to set yourself? Is it finding a partner, buying a house, getting a better career? Write all those down and then work out, what do I have to do to get there? So, what do I have to do this
Mm.
year to move me towards that 5 year goal? And then once you've done that, what do I have to do this quarter, this month, today? What am I going to do next? So just set it out. So basically, set out, this is what life by design is all about. Set out your life plan. What do you want your life to look like? What's stopping you from getting that now? And what would what would be the last step to take before you got there, before you reach the goal? So what would be the last step that you'll take, and what will
Mm.
be the first step you need to take? And just plan it all out. It sounds very kind of regimented to plan your whole life out. And I know, if you'd have said that to me when I was 20, I'd have gone, don't be ridiculous. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow, let alone in 5 years. But I wish now that somebody had sat down with me and said, let's just plan out your life. Let's just see, not your whole life, but just for the next 5 years. And then when you get near to that 5 years,
Next five
you
years.
can then have another 5 years so perhaps have a rolling 5 years that you're working on. And then you always know where you're going and you always know what you're aiming for. And that then it is setting your boundaries, because once you know what you want to achieve, you're not going to let anything get in your way, are you? You're not going to let somebody say you're not good enough. Say, well, actually, I am, because this is where I am towards my goal. So, yeah, actually, I am good enough. That would be my advice.
Oh, I love it. I loved how beautifully you bring everything together. That it's not that it sounds regimental. You're right. I probably was thinking that. I was like, oh, it sounds like a formula. Like, who wants to do
Well, it
that?
is. It's a
But it's
formula for
not
your
about,
life.
yeah, but it's not
But that
about
might
this
mean
the being
taking
strict.
extra qualifications. It might mean, learning new skills. It might mean practicing and practicing. It might mean reading books. But at least you know what you're doing. At
Where
least you
you're
know where you're
going.
going.
Yes, I think it's about that. It's doing the exercise such that you know where you're going. And then once you
Yes.
know where you're going, you know where the train is heading. And then when detours happen, you're like, okay, detour, and then I'll come back because, like, I know where I'm going. And then when where someone is behaving in a way that we believe is not in alignment with our values and boundaries, then we can say, no, thank you. This is not what I want in my life in an easier manner because I know where I'm going and I know what I want in my life. Doing that exercise gives me direction rather than regimental steps.
That's it. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful. So where can people find you? Know more about your work and your podcast, Life by Design?
Yeah, so everything, my podcasts and everything I do is on my website, which is lifebydesign.uk. I'm also on Instagram at Sue Reid 1905.
Amazing. And then just to kind of like close the podcast with the essence of what is this podcast is the question for you is what are you celebrating today?
What am I celebrating today? Well, the sun's come out. um, It's been really, really rainy here in Devon. The sun is shining today, and I'm working on my garden at the moment because part of my life vision is to have a beautiful home and garden. So I can actually get out and work in the garden today, and I've got vegetables that are in my greenhouse that need tending. So, yeah, that's what I'm celebrating, all the stuff in my garden, the beauty.
Awesome. And if I then go a little bit deeper and say, ask, what are you celebrating about you, yourself, today?
What am I celebrating about me? Well, the fact that I've done this podcast today, so and I've put a little bit of my knowledge out in the world, and
Yes.
hopefully somebody will listen and it'll help them. And I've not been too well for the last couple of weeks, so I've had a bad throat and a cough, and I had a bit of laryngitis, and that's unusual for me. I don't normally suffer with any illnesses, but it's taken me 3 weeks to shift it. So I'm also celebrating actually being able to sit here and talk for an hour without having to cough and and clear my throat. So that's a
Yay!
big celebration.
Yay! Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sue. It's been a lovely episode. It's been lovely having you and listening to your stories and so much wisdom, like on everything that you said, like from banking to dark times to confidence, self esteem, self image, courage, mental health. It was such a juicy episode and so much in this conversation. Thank you so much. And ladies, I'm sending you a big hug and a lot of love all the way from Malaysia, covering all of Asia, all the way to the UK, crossing the ocean, and covering all of America down to Mexico, Central America, and to the end of Latin America, all the way back to Africa, to coming back to Malaysia. Have a beautiful week, and I speak with you next week. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you, Sue.
Thank